This is not the start to a season anyone expected from Emma Navarro. And if you're one of her fans, you probably felt that sinking feeling before the Australian Open was even over. Because this isn't just about one bad loss. It's a pattern, and patterns in tennis can turn into problems fast. We're talking about a player who fought her way into the top 20, earned respect across the tour, and looked like she was building towards something bigger. Instead, the first stretch of 2026 has raised a very uncomfortable question. Is Emma Navarro stuck? Or worse, sliding backward while everyone else is speeding up? And before anyone says it's too early in the year to worry, let's actually look at what's happening. Not emotionally, not dramatically, just honestly, because the numbers and the match situations tell a story that's a lot more serious than a simple slow start. Her struggles didn't appear out of nowhere. If you rewind to the second half of 2025, you can see the warning signs. After Wimbledon, Navarro lost in the opening round of 4 of the 7 events she played. Washington, Cincinnati, Monterrey, Wuhan. That's not just tough draws or bad luck. That's a repeated failure to get momentum in tournaments where top players are expected to stack wins. Yes, she had that quarterfinal run in Beijing at the China Open, and that result kept her ranking stable. But if we're being honest, that run now looks more like an exception than proof that everything was fine. One deep result can hide a lot of early exits, especially in today's ranking system. Still, she held on to her top 20 position, and a lot of fans believed a fresh season would mean a reset. New year, new rhythm, maybe a strong Australian swing, and suddenly those late 2025 struggles would feel like a blip. Instead, the new season has made the concerns louder. It started in Auckland at the ASB Classic. Navarro came in as a second seed, which means expectations were clear. Seeds at high are supposed to reach the later rounds. They're supposed to handle early pressure. Instead, she was stunned by Francesca Jones in her very first match. A 3-set loss, 7-5, 2-6, 6-4, where momentum slipped away at key moments. That kind of loss hits differently. It's not just that she lost. It's who she lost to and when. Top players build seasons by banking early wins, especially at smaller events where they are seated high. Navarro had a chance to start 2026 with confidence. Instead, she left Auckland with more questions than answers. To her credit, there were signs of life in Adelaide. She picked up wins over Emerson Jones and Yulia Putintseva to reach the quarterfinals. That run felt like a small correction, a reminder that her level is still there when things click. But just when it looked like she might build something, she ran into Diana Schneider and went out again before the business ended the event. Quarterfinals are a disaster, but for a top 20 player trying to reestablish authority, it wasn't enough to change the overall narrative. She wasn't dominating. She wasn't controlling matches from start to finish. She was surviving some rounds and then falling when the level rose. Then came Melbourne, and this is where concern really grew. Navarro reached the quarterfinals at the Australian Open in 2025. That kind of result builds expectations, especially on hard courts. Fans circled the event as a place where she could make another deep run, maybe even push toward a semi-final if the draw opened. Instead, she lost in the first round to Magda Linette. After winning the first set, she couldn't hold her level, and the match slipped away 3-6, 6-3, 6-3. Grand slams are where reputations grow. Early exits there don't just cost ranking points. They chip away at belief, both for the player and for the people watching. Now stack that loss on top of Auckland and a modest Adelaide run, and suddenly the start of the season feels fragile. But it didn't stop there. Next stop was Abu Dhabi, and this one hurt in a different way. Navarro had a bye, which should have given her time to settle, adjust conditions, and start strong. Instead, she lost her opening match again, this time to fellow American Haley Baptiste in 3 sets. A tight first-set tiebreak win for Baptiste, a dominant second-set response from Navarro, and then a third set where control vanished again. 3 tournaments out of 4 where she lost her first match played. That's the stat that should worry fans the most. Not the rankings yet, not the headlines, but the simple fact that she's struggling to establish herself early in events. That's how players slide quietly down the standings before anyone realizes what's happening. The scary part is that Navarro isn't playing terribly. This isn't a complete collapse in level. She's competitive in sets. She's having stretches where she looks solid, but tennis at this level is brutal. Being good for parts of matches isn't enough. The top tier demands consistency across 2 or 3 hours, point after point. When you watch her recent losses, a theme starts to show. In tight moments, especially in deciding sets, her opponents are swinging a little freer, taking slightly bigger risks, and believing just a bit more. Navarro, on the other hand, looks like she's trying not to lose rather than fully committing to win. That's a tiny mental shift, but at this level, it's everything. Another factor is the tour itself. The WTA right now is stacked with power hitters and fearless young players who don't care about rankings. They walk on court seeing a top 20 player across the net and think opportunity, not intimidation. If Navarro isn't dictating, she's being pushed around. Her game has always been built on balance, movement, and smart point construction. But when confidence dips, that style can look passive instead of patient. Shots land shorter. Second serves sit up. Suddenly opponents are stepping inside the baseline and taking time away from her. This is where coaching and tactics become critical. Does she need to add more aggression? Take more return risks? Shorten points? Or is this purely a mental phase where belief needs to be rebuilt through a couple of gritty wins? We don't have all the answers, but the next few tournaments could reveal a lot. Because now she heads to Doha for the Qatar Open, a WTA 1000 event where there's nowhere to hide. The field is stacked. Aryna Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, and IJ Swiatek are all expected to be there. Elena Rybakina arrives as the reigning Australian Open champion. That's elite company, and deep runs require beating top players, not just surviving early rounds. This is also where ranking pressure starts to creep in. Navarro has managed to hold on to a top 20 spot, but that position isn't guaranteed. Points from last season don't defend themselves. If early exits continue while players behind her are making quarterfinals and semifinals, the drop can happen fast. And here's the emotional side that stats don't show. Being a top player is as much about identity as ranking. You start believing you belong in later rounds, on bigger courts, in tighter matches. But when first round losses stack up, even strong players start doubting small decisions. Do I go for the second serve? Do I step in on this return? Do I trust my forehand down the line? That hesitation is poison in professional tennis. The good news, and yes, there's good news, is that this story isn't finished. We've seen plenty of players go through rough stretches early in seasons and then flip the script with one breakthrough run. One semifinal at a big event can change the mood, the narrative, and the belief inside a locker room. Navarro doesn't need a miracle. She doesn't need to suddenly win a grand slam. She needs a week where she puts together 4 solid matches, handles pressure moments, and reminds herself what it feels like to close out wins. That's the reset button she's searching for. But until that happens, fans have a right to be uneasy, not panicked, not writing her off, but watching closely, because tennis careers don't move in straight lines. They swing on confidence, momentum, and timing. Right now, Emma Navarro is at a fork in the road, and the next month could shape the rest of her season. So what do you think is really going on with her game right now? Is this just a temporary dip before a big bounce back? Or are we seeing signs of a deeper issue that could push her out of the top tier? I want to hear your take, because this is one of those moments where fan perspective is just as interesting as expert analysis. One thing is certain. Doha isn't just another tournament for Emma Navarro. It feels like a test of direction. And in a sport where momentum is everything, the next few matches might tell us whether the season becomes a comeback story or a slow slide that no one saw coming soon. Tennis IQ will be watching every step of the way, breaking it down, calling it honestly, and riding the emotional roller coaster with you. Because that's what being real tennis fans is all about.